I'm Karen, 33 years old. After college, I landed a job at a multinational company, which was a dream come true. The pay is good, but the job is tough, with frequent international trips. At 29, I started to feel a little anxious about life and relationships, so I went to a social event with a friend. That's where I met my husband, Mike. Mike is the same age as me. Unlike my job, his is a regular 9 to 5 and doesn't involve travel. Because of that, I earn more than him. After dating for a year and starting to talk about marriage, Mike seemed worried. He asked me, "Can I really make you happy with the way things are?" I knew he was referring to the fact that I earn more, but I reassured him, telling him that it didn't matter and that I loved him for who he was, not because of money. Eventually, Mike proposed, and we had a beautiful wedding. Despite my busy work life, I felt truly happy. Fast forward 2 years, and our married life was peaceful. We even started talking about having children soon. One day, I got home from work, but Mike wasn't there. His shoes were missing, and there were no messages or calls from him. I started to worry and called him. Mike answered and explained that he was working overtime because he'd been given a big project at work, which could lead to a promotion. He apologized for not letting me know earlier and mentioned that he'd likely be working late more often. I was happy for him, even though he hadn't mentioned working overtime before. Mike had always been a little insecure about earning less than me, so I thought a promotion might give him more confidence. I didn't mind his current salary, but with children in our future, more income would definitely help. Since that call, Mike started coming home late and even worked on his days off. Our time together began to decrease. When I came home from work, Mike wasn't there. Even on his rare days off, he still wasn't home. The loneliness was harder than I had expected. I wished he could come home early, and that we could spend a relaxing day together once in a while, but I didn't want to be a burden on him, especially when his promotion was at stake. So, I decided not to confront him about how I felt. Instead, I focused more on my own work to distract myself. I had an overseas business trip coming up, so I thought, I'll just work as hard as he does. Even if I came home early, he wouldn't be there anyway. As a result, I started working overtime more often too, but the longer we spent apart, the more my heart felt heavy. I couldn't bear it anymore, knowing that it might be hard for him. I decided to share my feelings with him. When Mike came home one evening, I greeted him. "Welcome home, Mike. I have something I want to talk about." "Talk? Does it have to be today? I'm really tired," he replied, which caught me off guard. I hesitated for a moment but then continued, "I'm sorry, but it's something important." He sighed. "If you have something to say, say it quickly. I need to sleep early for work tomorrow." "Tomorrow is Saturday. Are you working on your day off again? Sometimes you should take it easy at home," I suggested gently. Suddenly, Mike snapped, "Enough already, you're nagging. I'm busy, don't you get it? Is it fun for you to bother me?" I was shocked. "That's not what I meant," I said quietly. "Please stop bothering me. Don't you realize how important this time is for me?" he shouted, his face angrier than I had ever seen. "I'm sorry," I whispered, feeling hurt and scared by his reaction. Mike just said he was going to bed and left the room, leaving me alone, trembling with fear. What just happened? I had never seen him like that before. I knew he was busy, but there was no reason for him to speak to me that way. My frustration grew, but I was too afraid to confront him anymore. We had always talked through things in the past, but now, I couldn't voice my true feelings. With my overseas trip approaching and my workload increasing, I tried to push these thoughts aside. One night, I ended up staying late at work again, and I rushed to the train station to catch the last train home. Unfortunately, the train I was waiting for was delayed. I thought, maybe Mike might have gotten home before me. Just in case, I decided to take a taxi. "Excuse me, can you take me to this address, please?" I gave the driver the address of our apartment, and we started moving. During the ride, I felt too tired to even look at my phone. I just stared blankly out the window, lost in thought. Suddenly, I yelled, "Stop, stop the car, please." I had seen something shocking outside the window. Across the pedestrian walkway, I spotted Mike walking with a woman I didn't recognize. "You've got to be kidding me," I thought. Mike had told me he was busy with work, so why was he here with another woman? My mind raced with questions. I wanted to believe it was a mistake, but everything, his clothes, his height, it all matched Mike. Then I saw something even worse. They were kissing right there in public, walking arm in arm. I felt my heart sink. Before I knew it, I had my phone out, recording everything as evidence of his betrayal. As I continued filming, the taxi driver asked. Ma'am? His voice brought me back to reality, and I quickly stopped recording. When I finally got home, Mike wasn't there. I called him right away, desperate to know the truth. The phone rang a few times, but he didn't answer. After several tries, he finally picked up. Stop calling me over and over. If I'm not answering, it means I can't talk right now, he said, sounding annoyed. I'm sorry, I replied, but I really need to ask you something. I'm working overtime right now, can we talk later? He responded, trying to brush me off. Overtime? You mean, you're not cheating, are you? There was a long pause on the other end of the line, then, in a voice filled with anger, he finally spoke. How can you say something like that to your husband, who's tired from work? Enough of this. He let out a frustrated sigh and hung up the phone. I'm not coming home tonight, Mike said abruptly, and then he hung up. His reaction confirmed what I feared, he was really cheating on me. But strangely, I didn't feel anger or sadness. Instead, I was just numb. So, he really is having an affair, I thought. We need to talk about this. Things can't go on like this. True to his word, Mike didn't come home that night. After that, when he did come home, we didn't talk. It felt like he was avoiding any real conversation. Soon enough, the day of my business trip arrived. This time, it was a 2-week trip overseas. On the morning I was leaving, I was unsure how to approach Mike, but surprisingly, he spoke first. Karen, you're leaving for a business trip today, right? Be careful, okay? I was caught off guard. Yes, thank you. He continued, 2 weeks is a long time. You go on these trips often, but I still can't get used to it. It feels lonely. Lonely? Does he really feel that way? I wondered. He added, things have been awkward between us lately. I want to clear up any misunderstandings. So let's have a nice dinner when you get back. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Is he trying to cover up his cheating with this sweet talk? It was hard to trust his words, but for some reason, I wanted to believe him. Maybe my love for him hadn't completely disappeared, despite everything. His smile, which I hadn't seen in so long, made me question everything. Did I imagine what I saw the other day? I told him, let's have a proper talk when I get back, and then I left for my trip. My business finished earlier than expected, so I decided to return home early, hoping to surprise Mike. Instead of telling him, I thought I'd cook dinner and wait for him. That was the plan. I arrived back in New York around 11 a.m., and reached home around 1 p.m. It had been about a week since I last saw the apartment, but as soon as I opened the door, my body froze. What is that? I saw a pair of light pink pumps at the entrance, definitely not mine. My heart started racing. Then, I heard voices from the living room, Mike's voice, and a woman's voice. I tiptoed down the hallway and peeked into the living room. There they were, Mike and the woman I had seen him with before. They were both sitting around, drinking, dressed in their underwear. My heart sank. With a sweet voice, the woman said, Hey Mike, are you sure it's okay to invite me over? What if your wife finds out? Mike responded casually, Nah, it's fine. She's on a business trip overseas until the day after tomorrow. Really? That's perfect timing. It's my birthday, and your wife isn't even home. She laughed. Exactly, Mike replied. Thanks to this, I can spend time at home with you. Linda, you're staying over tonight, right? Mike asked, sounding relaxed. Oh, Mike, I love you. Thank you for the present. Linda, his mistress, replied. So, the woman's name was Linda. They were hugging each other, clearly drunk. This must be a joke, I thought. Just because I earned more money, how could he do this to me? And in the apartment that I rented in my name? I felt sick to my stomach, but I pulled out my phone and recorded the whole thing as evidence. When they settled down, I quietly left the apartment, tiptoeing to avoid being noticed. As I walked out, sweat poured down my face, and my heart pounded. Despite everything I had just seen, part of me still didn't want to believe it. I kept hoping it was all a lie, but the image of them together was burned into my mind. I couldn't stay married to him anymore. I had to take action. I dialed Mike's number and waited for him to answer. He casually picked up, saying, Hello? I tried to sound urgent. Hey, where are you right now? Huh? I'm at work. Of course. What time do you think it is? He replied, clearly trying to sound convincing. Yeah, I guess so, I said, but it seems like someone is at home right now. His voice wavered as he stammered, what? My trip ended early, and I came back home. When I got to the front door, I heard someone talking inside. I said, weaving a little deception to see how he'd react. Wait, You're standing outside the apartment right now? Mike asked nervously. Yes, I am, Mike. What should I do? Should I go inside and check? I hoped his response would lead to a proper discussion where we could resolve things, but my expectations were shattered when he suddenly shouted, "Could it be a burglar? Get out of there now. Leave immediately." In that moment, any love I had left for him disappeared. Rather than admit his affair or apologize, he chose to lie and continue hiding it, pathetically. "For now, just get somewhere safe," he insisted, and then hung up abruptly. I called the police next. "Hello, is this the police? I think there's a burglar in my house. I can hear unfamiliar voices inside," I said. 2 police officers arrived a few minutes later. I explained the situation to them, and we went up to the apartment together. One of the officers rang the doorbell. When the door opened, Mike stood there with wide eyes. "Why are the police here?" he asked, sounding confused. "Are you the resident of this house?" one of the officers asked. "Yes, I am," Mike replied. "We received a report from your wife that there might be a burglar inside," the officer explained. Mike, clearly nervous, stammered, "A burglar? No, there's no one here." At that moment, I stepped out from behind the door. Mike's face turned pale when he saw me. What are you doing here?" he muttered, his eyes darting around nervously. I apologized to the officers, saying it must have been a mistake, and they left. Inside, I glanced around the apartment, knowing the truth. I didn't see any sign of Mike's mistress. He must have rushed her out when I called earlier. Did he really think I didn't know about the affair? Boldly, he accused me. "Why did you call the police? That's so troublesome." "Well, it was you, Mike, who said there might be a burglar. And weren't you supposed to be at work? Why are you here?" I replied. Never mind, just look at this," I said, showing him the video I took of him and the woman. His face turned pale as he watched. "This isn't what it looks like, Karen, this is..." "You're seriously not going to make excuses now, are you?" I cut him off. He started to sweat, trying to find something to say, but no apology came out. I had enough. "Just stop it. It's painfully obvious you're a jerk who can't even apologize when caught cheating. How does it feel to lie, cheat, and get caught? You didn't think it would happen to you, huh?" "Wait, Karen, I get it. I'll apologize," he finally blurted out. "Your apologies mean nothing to me now. In fact, they're worth less than nothing. Even if you apologize, I'll never forgive you. I'm going to sue you for emotional distress, and that woman too. You both deserve to rot in hell," I spat out, my anger rising. I kicked Mike out of the house and locked the door. He made noise outside for a while, but when I ignored him, he eventually left. Later, I got a call from my in-laws, saying Mike had gone to their house, claiming he had nowhere else to go. I explained everything to them, and they were furious. They made him write and mail the divorce papers to me. Thanks to them, the divorce was finalized quickly. The day after the papers were accepted, my in-laws kicked Mike out of their home and cut ties with him. I sued Mike and the woman, whose name turned out to be Linda, for emotional distress. We demanded a lump sum payment. Linda was a receptionist at the same company as Mike, and once their affair became public knowledge, she quit the company. As for Mike, he's now dealing with the judgmental stares of his colleagues and somehow managing to continue working. I later found out that his so-called promotion was just a lie to cover up his affair. I felt so foolish for believing a man like that, but at least I made the decision to divorce him. From now on, I'm focusing all my energy on my career. I'm determined to achieve even higher positions and prove that marriage isn't the only path to happiness. I'm ready to create my own future, on my own terms.